What's up, bees?
Hello.
Welcome to the Britt on Blast podcast, where we put everything and anything on blast. I feel like I'm yelling, but what is this week's roundup?
You kind of are yelling, but that's the kind of energy we have today here.
It is.
Today we have Nicole from Adornment by Nicole.
Yes.
She is a silversmith here in Reno, and I don't know if you guys follow her. If you don't, you need to, because her content is the best, and her jewelry, we're going to get into it. And it's just another level of jewelry making. We both have a couple of her pieces, and I think I wear my earrings from Nicole at least 6 times a week. And the only time I don't have them on is Sunday. And that's because I'm not going anywhere. Right. So yeah, her jewelry is the absolute best. And I just can't wait to hear her talk. She's so wise and she balances so much. And I think that you guys are going to gain a ton of knowledge and a ton of tips on just how to run a business and how to create and just the process of creating. And so I'm really excited to get into this.
I'm super excited. Nicole and I met like right when things were opening up in COVID times, and we went to like a woman's thing, and we did this like weird thing. Remember, we had to do that lineup situation. It was very awkward, and I hate those.
Like, oh my gosh,
those like
that's
10
giving me anxiety.
Yeah, like the 10-second intros, and I could tell you were nervous too. It's not even nervousness for me. It's just like, this is awkward. I have 10 seconds and then it's not efficient. Like, people aren't moving in the line right. And you're like, sort it out. It's not that hard. You go right, you go left. Everybody will match up. Like, don't just settle down, everybody.
That's so you. Sort it out.
It's not hard. And so it's very projector of me. And she was wearing this most incredible jewelry. And I was like, where is your jewelry from? She's like, I make it. I was like, no, you don't.
You're like, huh?
Yeah, but I only had 10 seconds. So that was kind of where we ended. and then a year later, I met her at ladies' night, and I was like, oh my God, you're the jeweler that I met that year ago. So now I have I got the most beautiful ring from her at ladies' night, and then I flung it off my finger and lost it forever. But then she made this incredible wolf ring, and then she had it dipped in gold for me, which she just does silver. So that was like the blessing of my life. And then she made a bolo tie she didn't make it for me, but I was like, did you make this for me? Because it's my birthstone.
That's how
and then all
her
black.
Jewelry feels. You feel like when you see it, you're like, I have to have that. That's made for me. I've never owned a bolo tie in my life, but I have a pink one, and it is my favorite piece of jewelry to wear.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like I remember my sister did a shoot with you. And she came home and was like, we're going to start wearing bolo ties. And I think I met the nicest person that walks the planet. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right. After I met you, I was like, that's her. There she is.
Yeah.
So
we're going to get into an interview with her. We pretty much just told you our entire intro, but we'll go back and say the intro again, probably. No,
yes.
Just kidding. But I want to know a little bit. We're going to switch this up because my dad said something to me this week that really hit home, and it's going to sound really harsh, but my dad is from the School of Hard Knocks, which I kind of appreciate sometimes. And he said to me this week that he had learned a new phrase, and he said, no one cares, work harder. And I really loved that. So in light of that, I want to kind of move away from telling you guys how our week went, because nobody cares. We work really hard. And that's all you need to know. I want to talk about what we learned. Like, I'm reading the book by Ed Milet, the new one that it's his newest one, The Power of One More. Mm-hmm. And it was just talking about your circle and how you like, you are the sum of the people around you, which I know that we've talked about before, but also what you have closest to you is what you produce within your space. And I've noticed that because I always think about, and we were talking about this right before the show started, like ever since I met Britt, it's like our relationship allows us to move forward in a way that I've never experienced before with another person. I maybe have this with like maybe one other person. I mean, obviously I've had to nix a lot of people in the last year, and I've really had to like readjust my circles. And it just talks about like the scope of all of the relationships that you have, but like your inner circle, who's in that circle, and how that can really propel you forward. So that was my big learning. And I know that I've like felt that before, but it truly is like, I mean, those two things, like nobody cares, work harder. Like Britt called to check in on me and was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, I don't, like, it is what it is. Like, we're just working hard and like getting it done. But she didn't like make me dwell on anything. And I've had friendships where people are like, yeah, but you had to do all that by yourself. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I can't think like that. I can't think like that. I just needed to get this work done. It's now done. And Britton's response to me was just think about how much more you're going to be able to make, and think about how exciting this is going to be once you get it all done, and like keeping me in that positive mindset. And I know we talked about that on the Jesse Corletto podcast that we had last week, where it was like changing your mindset, and like changing your mindset about giving, and changing your mindset about the work that you do and how that can really impact you. So that was like my big learning in the last like week and a half.
Well, you've had to do a lot of hard things, and you've taken major steps. So you're in like this growth period that is so uncomfortable. And you know what? I feel like, because we were talking about growth yesterday, we're always in a growth period. No matter what, when you have a small business. And even if you push pause on your business and you're on vacation, you're still growing, because when you're on vacation, you come back, you think of all the things that you want to change or do. Like, it is a constant progression of growth and transition, and it's never comfortable. And that's what, like we were talking yesterday, and then I was like, yeah, sometimes it's more extreme, but it's always there. And right now you're like taking that huge leap, and it's amazing. But at the end of the day, nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
But that's another thing, that we shouldn't be doing it for other people. Like, if we are in our businesses for our why, then we shouldn't care about like our circles and like what they think, or, you know, why aren't they like giving us kudos, or why, you know what I mean? And it's like, because they don't care. And in reality, they have their own lives, their own transition periods, their own growth periods going on. They don't have the time to think about if the babe cave is, you know, operating, you know,
if
and
the
like,
Wi-Fi went out or not, you know, like,
right.
I think, and even when we say that, I know we talk a lot about small businesses. I know some people don't own a small business that listen to this, but I think it is important to realize. I was just having a conversation with Lauren, my marketing coordinator, and she was like, we were talking about relationships. And I was like, you need to learn how to validate yourself. You cannot be expecting whoever you're in a relationship with, and hers was like a past relationship. And it's like, you cannot expect anybody to validate you. Like, these things that you want to do to get a reaction or to make yourself feel better, you don't need to involve anybody else in that process in order to feel better or to move past or to get the closure that you need. And I really have learned that in the last year. Like, the less I involve people in my feelings, the better I feel. And that means like the more I can feel for others, the more I can care for others without any conditions on them. Like, I can truly care about my neighbors in the way that I used to, without having that like, well, you didn't do the thing for me, or like, I needed that sort of thing. Like, you're really just validating yourself and like getting to be unconditional with others because you rely all on your own.
Yes.
Does that make any sense?
100%. I think that kind of the theme of that whole statement was like, your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship. And it goes back to like, you have to fill your cup first before you can fill others. But like, getting to know yourself and validating yourself and what makes you motivated and why you're doing what you're doing. And then from there, you don't need the validation of others because you have the validation from yourself. And that's like the very core. I mean, obviously, if you have a spouse or other very close relationships, you have to consider other people. But I'm just saying, like, the day-to-day. And I just, like I said today, I was like, I've been working so hard on having Zen and my mental health. I had like my first Reiki session last weekend. And that's kind of my biggest takeaway was like, you need to get to know you. You need to focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but like, just get to know the relationship with you. Like, what do I want as a person? And like, what makes me feel successful, you know, because that's different for every person. And so it's like not what society tells you, but what makes you successful.
There's a meme going around right now that's like, sis, there's like two people in a relationship. You can't just blame him, like also blame his mother. That shit's not your fault. And like, I have a serious problem with that. Like, no, it's not his mom's fault. It's not his fault. It's your fault. It's you have to take just as much responsibility for all of the things that you accepted, all of the things you allowed to have happen, your behavior in a relationship and all of your relationships in order for you. And the only way that you can do that is to your point, get comfortable with yourself and know who you are. So that, and my thing now is like when I'm entering new relationships, if I feel the need to shift in any way outside of who I am, I'm like, this is not for me. I'm out. I'm not doing this.
Well, and I think like, yeah, when you say that in a relationship, it's not to like not get into relationships, but like when there's a red flag or let's say there's a failure in the relationship, that just brings clarity.
Right.
So that's another thing that I've just been thinking, like, it's not failure, it's just clarity, and it continues you on your journey a lot faster. So it's like, the more that you fail, the more clear life. Like we don't know everything, and
it's learning.
I mean, and we're ashamed about things that we don't know. Well, how are we supposed to know everything? We're ashamed when our relationships fail because we didn't know that someone who has a substance abuse problem, or he had a substance abuse problem.
Right.
Let's just say that. It's like, well, that's clarity. So we take that into our next relationship, right?
Exactly.
And so it's like just that alone is like just continuing on and learning from your past, and I don't want to say mistakes or failures, but just learning from the past. Yeah.
Learning. That's what we do here. Speaking of which, let us educate you on our events that we have this week. What do you I don't have anything this week. Do you?
I do not. So
yay,
this week I do.
Rest. I said, yay, you.
Oh, I thought you said, yeah, you do. I was like, I probably forgot something. Where's the truck supposed to be? This week, so Friday is my 5-year wedding anniversary, and so we're going on a little trip. I cannot believe it's been 5 years. It makes me feel very old and weird, but
well, congratulations.
I'm very excited about that. But I also next week is ladies' night.
Yeah,
and I have been seeing, social media can be such a poisonous thing because I've been seeing so many different things about like pop-ups and like just different events going on that are like very similar to ladies' night, which obviously like anyone can mimic or copy anything that you do. Like there is no patent on pop-up events. And I understand that, but like I was getting like very insecure, like, well, why is this a try? Like, but I was just thinking like the quality of the pop-ups in our customer service and like what we do is the most important thing and how we make people feel. So I just had to like revert back into our why and know that like sometimes it's not always best to just do more or hustle more because it dilutes. It dilutes everything across the board. So I'm just like, it's okay. We don't have a pop-up this week, and
it's great.
It's summer. Everyone's out camping. No one has a schedule right now. Like I was like, this is a perfect time to just like take a break and then come back and deliver that like quality pop-up event that we do when we all come together and share our talents and like just create those great vibes that we do.
But also that's a very big difference. And like the big scheme of things is like, that's why you create multi-channel. Like that's why you have a multi-channel business. Like
totally,
you don't rely only on the pop-ups so that you can do these things and support other small businesses and create really high vibe community events. And I know we've talked about that and we've said that is like, it's not really ladies' night, it's community night.
Right. And there's like that little magic behind the event. And when you go to those events and it either like has it or it doesn't, the vibes are either there or they're not. And it's like, I think that when everyone comes together and truly wants the person next to them to be successful, that's when you create that kind of magic and people get drawn in and want to be there, want to be a part of it.
And I think we're going to have a ball pit or some sort of thing.
Yeah.
Adult ball pits. I'm here for it.
Yeah. No, this ladies' night is going to be awesome. And yeah, I feel like we've gone way over our intro.
We absolutely did. Let's get into Nicole.
Yeah, I can't wait. So Britt, why intentional candles for mental health?
Because building healthy habits around your intentions can have a positive impact on not only your mental health, but your overall productivity. I wanted to create a premium non-toxic candle that reminded my customers that life is complex and we can live in the and space. Talking about mental health and mental illness doesn't always have to be scary or depressing. Sometimes it can be fun and enlightening. We are wildly unique and expansive creatures, as we've talked about on the podcast before, and we can be many things in a day. And sometimes we just need to light a candle to remind ourselves who the fuck we are and what we are capable of.
I 100% agree with that. Plus, your candles smell so good and they fill up my whole house. I hear you have something special for our listeners.
I do. I have a little promo for our bees. Y'all can head to havenandflux.com and use code BOB20 at checkout to get 20% off your order. I hope y'all enjoy.
Nicole is a silversmith located here in Reno. She has been creating for 17 years doing her work, and she's been doing silversmith work for about 6 years. Her business has been in operation for 2 years, and for Nicole, it is more of a way of life. Making jewelry is her creative outlet and her calling. Her style is unique and definitely a statement, and you know her hands have been on it by simply looking at the piece. Her work is on another level of detail and perfection, and we are in awe that she is located here in Reno and that we get to share this space with her today. Britt and I both have pieces from her. Britt talked about the wolf ring and the bolo ties. I wear her earrings almost every single day, and it's just such a, I feel truly honored to have her and her creative self here in the studio with us today. So
we've been trying to get her on the podcast for a minute, but we've been like chaotic. And so scheduling has been out of control. She messaged me. She was like, was I supposed to be on the podcast this week? I was like, well, whoopsies. So I am so excited to have her here. She's also a listener, which is great. And she also loves human design as much as we love human. Probably, I don't know. Do you love it as much as we love it?
Probably not as much as you love it.
Because I love it. But she's a generator. So I learned recently that generators and projectors work really well together because they have so much energy that they just have constant, which makes sense. So Natalie Mills is a generator. Lauren Benson, who's my marketing coordinator, is a generator. Bridget Murdoch is a generator. And so all of these generators, we go really well because we can kind of direct their energy.
Definitely. And that makes sense for creating for you, right?
Yeah. When I hear that, it's like, I don't know any other way. And when I heard my human design, I was like, oh, okay, it's, that makes sense. And that gives me validation of why, like, I can't stop making things. If I'm not making jewelry, I'm doing something like with my hands at my house with my kids. Like, I have to have my hands busy all the time. So anyways, it's just very much, I feel aligned when I heard I was a generator.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. You're a busy woman.
Thank you.
Let's just dive into it. Tell us about the process of creating. You mentioned to us earlier, you start with a stone, but just elaborate on this process.
Sure. So it depends on if I'm working on a custom piece with the client or I'm just having a free form creative process, which has become my new favorite recently. I've been moving away from customs and just doing what my heart says. And when it starts with that, I just pick up the stone. I was telling you guys earlier that it all starts with the stone. If I fall in love with the stone, which to me is immediate, I feel like it's the same thing when you are talking to somebody and you have an kinetic energy with them. It's immediate. And so if I fall in love with the stone, I've gotten like good enough to even know online if a stone has that magic and be able to buy, which has been important the last couple of years, people to source stones online. So it starts with that. If I feel that magic connection with the stone, I set it out. Sometimes I just play with metal and I have my pliers and I just explore. Like, I love keeping scraps around my desk so I can grab some scraps. And sometimes like something that was a no-go on a last project is actually perfect for this project. And I kind of work around with the metal. That's usually what I do. But sometimes I sketch things out if I can't be at my studio, like recently. So this necklace I'm wearing, I was on a trip and I took photos of these stones because I knew I wanted to do something with it. And so I was able to like sketch on the airplane and I sketched out the design for this. So I do sketch sometimes, but my go-to is definitely playing with the metal and the stones in my hands. Like I'm a very hands-on.
You're very tactile. It sounds
yes, very much so.
And that's amazing because looking at that necklace, she's wearing this beautiful necklace right now, and it's definitely a statement piece. It has, does that have 5 stones?
Yeah.
And it's big. And
sapphires
it's
too, right?
Yeah.
for you to be able to just kind of hold the stone and then just know what to sketch out, like that just blows my mind. Like it's just,
I feel like a little bit of the experience I have has gotten me to the point to be able to do that. You know, I've made enough pieces where I can like kind of see in my mind's eye what it's going to end up looking like. So it wasn't always that way.
Well, and I think like I have 2 things came to mind when you said the energy of the stone. Because when we were doing the intro today, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's like, it's crazy how you've created something where the wolf piece, for example, was different. And then you helped me create it, make it fit my daily life. With the bolo tie, it was like energetically, immediately, I was like, that is the bolo tie for me. Like I could not live without that. And it wasn't like, you know, it's precious stones and like high quality. So like normally you think about a purchase like that, but I was like, I can't live without this piece.
yeah.
And so I think that's really magical that you can do that, because I don't think a lot of jewelers have that capability, or silversmiths or goldsmiths or anything like that. And then the other thing that I was thinking was, can you talk to us a little bit? Because don't you do wax molds?
Yeah, so that's something I started doing this year. And so it's a totally different process. That has to be like completely thought out ahead of time before I even touch the wax, or at least from my understanding of it so far. I have to sketch it out, and it's like working backwards. It's like carving a statue. You have the brick of marble, and you have to work into it to find the piece, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what lost wax casting is you have a hunk of wax and you carve into it. So with the wolf ring, it was starting with a hunk of wax, getting it to be this circle shape, the coin shape, flattening it out, and then sketching out the little design on the wax and carving.
Yeah.
And then it gets casted in molten metal, which is totally different than what I do, which is I hold a fire to my metal and basically solder pieces together. So it's a very different technique, and that's been a lot of fun to explore. When I'm working with the wax, it's like it takes hours and hours, but it's such a meditative thing. Like I can I usually for that, I'll put in an Audible book because I can like really dig in and lose like hours. Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's really fun.
And you called it a little like sketch. It is it's so detailed. It's the size of a coin, but like the wolf is so detailed, and you did that out of wax. That is
it's a totally different high for creating. It's so fun.
And this ring, I get more compliments on this ring than any other ring. Then I was married and had a nice stone on my hand at one point, and
you guys are so sweet.
And I got more compliments. I get more compliments on this.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So you've been making jewelry for 17 years, but strictly doing silversmith work for 6. Tell us like a little bit about how you got started in this, and like the training that it requires, because I mean, you're dealing with hot fire, like you have a torch and all the things. Like I don't even want to say it wrong, but like just tell us the training that is needed to do and create the way you do.
So I have maybe it's similar to other silversmiths, but I didn't get formally trained like a goldsmith or a silversmith might. I grew up in the Bay Area and had this like very square job at a health insurance office. And then me and my brothers decided to move to Tahoe when I was like 22. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I'll just find a, insurance gig. I was union job. So I was like, I'll find a union job. I get to Tahoe and I'm like, oh, it's a resort town. Like there's no health insurance jobs. So a few weeks into wandering around looking for a job, I got a job at a bead store. And that was the beginning of what I discovered my passion was creating jewelry. I had no idea. I mean, immediately I had 3 tools in my hand and I was obsessed. Like I was just basically wire wrapping in all of my spare time, which is playing with wire and stones and making pieces. So through that, people started to want to buy those pieces I was making. And I would just kind of reinvest every time I would sell something, buy a new tool, buy more beads, buy more stones, just kind of always having it as like a side thing that I did on top of working my bead store job. Eventually I ended up managing that store and the store in Reno. Always had I did like craft fairs with my wire wrap jewelry, and it was always gemstones. I fell in love with gemstones. And then when I got pregnant with my son, who's now going to be 7 soon, I heard about this silversmith out of Silver City. It's like the most perfectly magical place to learn how to. This guy that he built his own house with his hands in Silver City. Like on top of the Comstock load. It was really cool. So I heard about him. I had called him up, and I went to his little studio, and he taught me how to solder. And I was like, okay, I need a torch. Like I can't keep coming out here. I need a torch in my house because I'm a very hands-on learner. So I went to see him just about 2 times and got a torch, set it up, and just kept exploring. Like I'm very much a type of person who wants to try things. I feel like what keeps me moving and my jewelry evolving is I get bored doing the same thing. So I just want to try. I just want to keep trying. So that's how I mostly was self-taught for a long time, and started setting stones at that stage, and then got pregnant with my daughter and took a step back from silversmithing because I wasn't sure the fumes and being pregnant. There wasn't a lot of good information on that. And I don't know if my setup was really all that great either for fumes. And so I took a step back, and then when it came back on, it was full on. Like once I lit that torch up a couple years ago, I haven't looked back. Immediately, like all my same clients were there waiting for me on Instagram and buying. It was like the railroad train took off. It was amazing. So it's been a couple of years of a whirlwind of adventure and creation. Yes. It's been amazing.
And you sell a ton of jewelry, which is amazing.
It's really, I'm like, feel like the most blessed person in the world that I get to create and that people fall in love. Like the way you guys were talking about how you fall in love with the piece. And I feel like almost as I'm creating it, I'm like giddy with finding out who is going to fall in love with it. Because I know if I am following my intuition on a piece, I know it's because it's for somebody, and I can't wait to meet that person. And it's always really cool. Like, oh, you're who I made this for, even though I didn't know at the time. And so it's really, really cool. I'm blessed.
Britton, tell us what BLFT is all about, because you know it's my favorite place to shop.
The Biggest Little Fashion Truck is a family-owned and operated boutique on wheels. We got started 5 years ago because I had this deep desire to make women feel more confident. And I found out that one of the many ways you can enhance your confidence was through clothing. Hence our why, confidence through clothing.
We love some confidence in our lives.
We pride ourselves in bringing back that old school expertise in customer service by providing an experience, whether it be at our pop-up events around town.
We love the pop-up events. I'm at those with her all the time, and they are fire.
Or we have a storefront, the Babe Cave. We just want each and every babe to feel better and be ready to be seen after shopping with us. Shop us online at the Babe Cave or our pop-up events at local businesses around town. We can't wait to see you. And a little something special we have for you. Use promo code BOB20 for 20% off your purchase online.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna be shopping today. I love that so much. Like that is like such a universal thing where it's like, you know, it's like that full circle thing. Jesse was just talking about that last week, where it's like the circle of like, everything is just a circle. It all just comes back around. And like every little thing, like every little piece you make is intended to go to somebody else who's going to love it and care for it. And then it just circles back around. I mean, that's literally obviously now I have to bring it back to business sense, but it's like, that word of mouth, like it goes back to that word of mouth is like, you're creating such an experience. Like the fact that, and maybe that's where the energy comes back from these pieces. It's like, you might not, because that's not jewelry. I've sold jewelry my whole life. Like jewelry can make you feel good about yourself, but it doesn't always make you feel the way. Like I don't wear my bolo tie every day, but it hangs where I can see it every day because it brings me joy every time I see it. So like, a piece like that it's hanging around a cattle skull too. So it's like the cattle skull.
Perfect.
It's decor.
It's decor. Yeah, but I think that's like, you know, that's what sets you apart from everybody else. And I think that,
thank you.
Yeah, I'm just really fascinated by that. This is your full-time gig, huh?
This is my full-time gig outside of being a mom. But yeah, my kids, when they're in school, I'm 5 days a week, 6 hours of, like I drop them off, I go to my studio, I'm in there, I go pick them up. So full-time gig outside of being my mom role.
And you're in a house of entrepreneurs as well.
Yes, my husband, it's helpful to have him as my husband because Wes King, he owns Tahoe Trail Bar. That's my husband. Yeah. And he's full on business. He sales like you. Like his brain is so wired for that. He's so smart. It's crazy. And my brain just doesn't work like that. Like I am fully just a creative and an accidental entrepreneur because I create. I do find business fascinating, but like it's just not the way his brain works. So he's very inspiring to me. And he was the first person to show me, like back when we've been together for like 17 years, the whole time I've been in Tahoe and in Reno. We've been together for a long time. And he's like born entrepreneur. Always been since he was kids. He's got like stories to tell. And I've been in a family of people that go to work and get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And so when I first met him, he was the first person that believed in me to be like, this is something you need to look into. You need to make a business out of this. And take that leap from getting a paycheck every 2 weeks to not knowing where the money was going to come from. That's like a big mindset shift. Oh, yeah. And I definitely found him for inspiration for that.
It's scary.
It's very scary. It's a totally different world.
There's no way around it. Yeah. It's very scary. But somehow, if you work hard and you put out what you're meant to do, it comes back to you.
Yes.
Somehow, and it's not always great, but somehow you get through, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just talking to another salesperson about this the other day, and this is the downfall and the blessing of a salesperson is that we have the mindset that money, as fast as it can be lost, it can be gained. So we spend and we make money quickly because we know that there's always, we're not that risk aversion, like for better or for worse, like I don't have it. When it comes to money. And I know that that's a little bit scary, I think, especially for people who get into a relationship with me, but because I know that I can go and make more of it quickly.
Yeah.
And I know that it's like, that is the one thing. Other things don't always seem so abundant to me, but money is.
That's awesome.
And it doesn't mean I always have a lot of it. It just means that like there's access to a lot of it. Some way, shape, or form I can get it. Do you mind? I'm going to be annoying. What's his human design?
Oh gosh, I think he's a generator as well. Okay. Oddly, because when I was talking to you at the beginning of this, I was like, yeah, he seems like a projector like you, but no, I think he's actually a generator.
Okay.
What's the second generator type?
Manifesting
generator. I think he's a manifesting
I feel like
generator.
We had this conversation off air before, and I feel like it might be because I thought he was a projector as well because I've met him.
Yeah.
So you just explained being a wife and having 2 kids, and Esme is your older son I've met, but he's very calm and kind of manages the situation. Esme is, I love that kid. She's a fiery little thing. I love it so much.
She is you're sweet to just remember her name. I always think that's so sweet when people remember my kids' names. She is such a firecracker. Like I just watch her and I'm like, who are you? And where do you get this from? I am amazed at watching her get older. I don't know what she's going to do with herself, but it's going to be big.
Yeah. That's awesome. She's awesome.
Hilarious.
She's a cool kid.
She runs the world in her mind.
I think, and also
perfect. Confidence is key.
Yes. She's very confident.
I love that.
Which I think is so important. Like, I'm really glad that Cohen, my son, is like a thinker and he's just like very inward, and Esme is very outward. And I think that's going to suit them as being like boys and girls. I feel like we don't need any more like outward, aggressive boys. We can need some more outward aggressive girls. And so I'm glad that
also balance them, like, because he can watch her and she can watch him, and they'll learn so much from each other as siblings. Like, what a great gift.
I know, right? Yeah. The only reason why I had a second child is so that Cohen could have a sibling. Like, being a mom is a lot, and having birth and giving birth. The whole thing it took me a while. It took me 3 years to have the second one because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But it was all for like, I really want siblings because there's so much to learn. Every day I'm like, they're fighting, but they're learning how to navigate the world. You know?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Having siblings is important.
It's almost like an extra pair of hands, like to help raise,
Mhm.
because you kind of help raise each other.
Yeah.
You're like, and don't you want to hear it from your sibling? Like, bro, that's not cool.
Yes.
Like, don't do that. Or like, this is what you need to be doing. This is where you need to be. Like,
yes.
siblings just counter.
Yeah. And then as an adult, like no one knows what you went through better than your siblings.
Totally. You
Friends,
have that in
partners. Yeah.
That's my missing piece. That's my link. Because I grew up with a sibling and then now I'm an only child. And I'm not an only child. It's just that all of that partnership that I had growing up with my brother is just like, it's not there anymore. And that's definitely
It's almost like a death in some ways.
Oh, it is. I tell people that all the time. It's like experiencing a death. It's not to make this about me, but
that's
like
a heavy thing to
definitely
move through.
A rough situation. But I want to know how like you balance it all. How do you, because that's a big thing. I have struggled with just the dog and the business.
Yeah, it seems hard.
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie. It is a lot. And some days it feels empowering to do it all. And some days I feel defeated. Like it just depends on the day. I approach my business very intuitively. Like I don't have these goals for 5 years. I'm kind of like 3 months out. What do I want to be doing? 6 months out, maybe a year, you know? Recently I did a big shift in my business. I moved away from customs, which I was working primarily in customs, and into closing my customs and taking the summer to be a mom and go on vacation and also work towards these pieces I want to make for this art show coming up. And I had to cut my customs off in order to do that. And it was a really hard decision, but I'll tell you, as soon as I decided it, I was like, my shoulders lifted. I felt so much relief. And looking back at that, I didn't know it at the time, but I don't know how I would have done this summer if I hadn't closed my customs. Because at the rate I was doing things, like I was walking into my studio stressed, and that's not how I want to come to my studio. I don't want to be making any pieces from that mindset. So I'm just glad I did it. I think once I open my customs back up, it'll be an exciting new thing, and I'll be ready for it. But that was like a big, as far as balance go, that was a big important thing that I needed to do in my business. And I just did that intuitively. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I did that.
That's awesome.
I think that's such a healthy thing because we deal with that with private labels. And I took a break recently. And I remember telling you, I've got to take a break from this because the designing for somebody else as a designer is very hard. And like branding for somebody else, because branding is my thing, that's not fun to do for somebody else. I have a hard time doing that. Like if I'm really partnered with somebody and we're creating something together, that's different. But when somebody comes to you and says, I have this idea, but can you execute it and like make it come to life? And then what happens, and that people don't realize happens, is there's a lot of like hard stops along the way where they're like, oh, I know I said I wanted that tiny thing there, but can you quickly just change it? And especially in silversmithing, like quickly change what? Like that's set. There's no, like that's not coming out of
and
there.
it's like not even their fault. It's just they might not have that vision like we do. And until they see it, they don't know they don't like it. And so it's like it's just a different beast. Yeah. And hopefully when I do open them back up, I'm going to have them limited. And I think that's where the balance is. Like, okay, I have a handful a month. I know I can do, and not let the floodgates open and then find that balance there. Cause it is a fun thing. Like I do like co-creating, and I think it's magical to see them light up when you're like, look what I made for you. Yeah. But it's a balance. Like I have to keep loving it. And I'm sure it's the same thing. Like it has to come from your heart rather than like a stressful part of your job, because this is your life. Your job is your life.
Well, and I'm making one now that's like really giving me fuel because it's about our home. And, I have the hometown heroes and I refuse to get rid of them. And like, I'm excited to launch that. But anyway,
cool.
You have a nugget in there that I want to talk about because I'm on an Ed Milet kick right now just because I'm in this book. And he talks about short sprints.
Okay.
And you just kind of discuss that, like with your goal setting. We talk about 5 years, 10 years, all of this. As humans, we procrastinate a lot, right? So like you think about when you have something due in college, then you just wait and wait and wait and put it off. And he talks about breaking his days into 3 chunks. And so he works from like 6 to 12, 12 to 6, and 6 to 12. And those are like, or not works, but like he breaks his day into those 3 pieces. And he says, I have, when everybody else gets, 7 days in a week, I'm getting 21 days in a week. That's kind of an extreme concept, but I started doing that a little bit more where like, I know I have to get all this stuff done before I go on this family vacation. So I'm fast tracking everything up. And it's instead of doing like, this is my 10-year plan, to your point,
Mm-hmm.
you're setting short-term goals. So how are you setting your short-term goals? I want to like, do you feel like you're getting to the finish line faster by setting shorter term goals, or?
I really wish I had like a good answer for you. I'll go back to just telling you, like, I really work from my intuition, and what feels good.
Yeah.
And that might be a little woo-woo, and I feel a little bit like underwhelming with that answer, but that's truly how it goes. And sometimes I make these decisions intuitively, and it's like the rear view window mirror effect. I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I see why I did that. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, that's a really important tool, is to have an intuition and to listen to it, because I've heard you guys talk about this, like other people telling you what to do with your business doesn't always make sense to you. You're running your business, you know where you want to be. So I just work very intuitively. And like when I made this decision to shut off my customs, I wasn't sure of the whole picture. And then I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've opened up a new door. When I shut that door, I opened up a new door. I've leveled myself up. I want to be making pieces like this all the time. I want to make gallery pieces. Like I want to move away from the little dinky things. I want to think, spending hours on a project rather than like, a half a day.
All right, so you guys know that I live for Western wear, specifically my boots and my hats. So I want to talk a little bit about a brand new brand that is new to Reno, Nevada, and is from our beautiful babe over here. So Britt, tell us what Murdoch's is.
Well, first of all, hats have been one of my truest loves since I was a kid. I swear I had a hat on in every single picture as a child. And then they quickly became a BLFT signature. We couldn't find the hat that was just perfect, and so we decided to design our own. Murdoch's is a family brand that started in the great state of Nevada in the 1950s. My great-grandparents started Murdoch's Western wear. Fast forward 60 years, the Murdoch sisters recreate this homegrown brand by curating a hat line that embodies the spirit of Nevada. We were raised in this amazing state, and we watched a Nevadan's ability to put in a hard day's work on the ranch, followed by a hard night's play at the casinos. We pulled inspiration from the everyday beauty around us, the sunsets, Lake Tahoe, the mountains, and the forest.
I'm not going to lie, I have full body chills right now because you hit so many nails on the head just now. Like, there's nothing that screams Reno, Nevada more than family and community and a little bit of Western. So the fact that you put all of our favorite things together and then you made it all about like bringing back the roots of your family brings me so much joy. Y'all need to check out Murdoch's hats. Where do you find them?
MurdochsHatsAndApparel.com.
We love it. Go shop, y'all. That's a great answer.
And it also goes back to like why you're such an amazing artist and creative, because you do let that kind of inner compass guide you through not only the business decisions that you have to make, but through the creative process. And also it sounds like that decision was made kind of subconsciously to prioritize the most important thing in your life, which is your kids. And so then you were able to be more present with them.
Absolutely.
And in turn, maybe grab inspiration from being present in traveling over the summer and being able to just be hands-on with them, because you kind of have to like weigh that, I guess. You can always go back to your creative outlet, but your kids are only going to be right. So it just seems like your intuition and just who you are just kind of guides you through life, and it definitely works.
I've found that like I've had a really good, strong intuition looking back on my life. I didn't realize it in my 20s, but then when I had my human design read, that was one of the things that came up, was that she was like, do you have a strong intuition? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like when people say they don't, I'm like, how? I have such like, it's that whatever I'm thinking, or like, I don't understand it, but that's real to me at the time. And so, I'm grateful for my intuition. I'm grateful to be able to listen to it. And it's never guided me wrong. It's taken me from the Bay Area to Tahoe, meeting my husband and finding my passion. Like that was all on intuition. Yeah, I didn't know why I was doing that at the time. Right. So it's always done me right.
I think that sometimes people have a hard time understanding that if there's someone who strictly uses logic, which there's a lot of people out there, and we have a lot of jobs that need to just be analytical, and they need to use, just logic.
Yes.
But logic doesn't explain like the magical places in life. Logic doesn't explain coincidences and God winks and all of those things that happen throughout our days and our lives. And so like I feel like are people that really dive into that kind of aspect. And it's good to have both, or else our world would be completely upside down. But it's like, so some people listening might, but it obviously works for you.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think like you just said, like, it's important to have both. Like there's logic and that's very important. And just because you're an instinctual or an intuitive person doesn't mean that you're not logical. My therapist said to me one time, she's like, your brain is receiving so much data that you're not even recognizing like 3/4 of the data that you're bringing in. So your intuition is what is telling you, maybe it is logical because your brain has got all this stuff going on inside. We describe it as intuitive, but it's literally just all of the data that we've collected, that some of it we can't comprehend. It's subconscious. And then we make decisions. And like, for me, it's instincts. My whole life, everybody's like, you're so impulsive. You're so impulsive. Yeah. Well, some of the most impulsive decisions of my life have been the best decisions of my life. So posting Haven and Flux on Instagram was impulsive, and it's like, and here we are. So
yeah,
you know, I think that it's really important to like, you know, it doesn't, I know all three of us are very spiritual people because I know all three of us outside of this recording studio, but I think spiritual people can get a lot of like hate from a very logical world. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. And I think that when you look at the three of us, we've taken a lot of things that we've brought in from our lives or that we've experienced in our lives, and we now execute those day to day, and we use our intuition to guide us. I'm getting better. I shouldn't say I'm getting way better at using my intuition because it's been a little black.
It's hard. It can kind of feel, and when things get hectic, it's easy to kind of draw away from that, and you want to just be in control. And so you're like, things are going haywire. I'm going to control, and our need to feel in control creates anxiety.
Right.
And so it's like just stepping back and being like, okay, what can I actually do today? What can I take action on today that will release some of this anxiety? What can I actually control? And what do I need to leave to fate and, you know, instinct and intuition?
That was such a good parenting tidbit that you just said. Like, as a parent, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I need to do, is take a step back when it's feeling chaotic and, you know, like the kids are arguing and I'm making dinner. Like, take a step back, and I don't think I listen to my intuition enough in those moments when I'm parenting and it's getting chaotic. So thank you for saying that.
I'm sure that it's really hard. I say it, I don't always do it.
But that's beautiful. You beautifully said.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So what is one thing that you wish you were better at?
One thing I wish I was better at. Okay, let me think. Can it be like a skill that I'm not good at all?
Yeah, for sure.
I wish I could play an instrument fluidly enough to express emotions, you know? Like when I listen to music, I emote. I feel I'm so like tied in. But I wish that I could speak through an instrument in that same way, you know?
Like how you do with your jewelry.
Like how I do with my jewelry. Exactly. I wish I could do that with music because I think it taps into a totally different thing, but important.
I bet you'd be so good at it if you had the time.
If I had the time, right?
That's the thing. It's like...
Yeah. I was taking drum lessons, then I got pregnant with my son. That had to stop. When I was younger, I was like trying to teach myself how to play guitar, but I never pursued it. And I think that is like a regret of mine that I might have to look into.
Do you sing at all?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm terrible. My husband, on the other hand, is great.
Wow.
He's a really good singer and guitarist.
Yeah, I can
and songwriter
sing or play. Like, I appreciate music, but I'm pretty much tone deaf.
Yeah, same.
Can you sing?
I think I can, but I don't like to do it in front of anybody
so
else.
She has a good voice.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So you have a good voice. Like,
I can't wait to hear you
don't
sing.
Have a
no,
good
I won't.
Voice.
Yes.
I'll just be completely honest with you. Like, you know.
There's no gray area.
Yes,
it's black or white.
Yeah, I have to be very, like, I honestly think Bree is the only person who has heard me sing.
Oh, I want to hear you sing.
Maybe my mom, maybe.
I want to hear you play. I want to hear you sing. I will be there for the applause, like Lady Gaga says. So you guys look for the applause.
Okay, then.
That's very interesting. And I think it totally aligns with just who you are, just as a person.
I love music so much.
If you told me I play an instrument, I'd be like, yep, it checks out.
I wish.
Tracks.
I wish.
What keeps you going? Like, what's your why?
What's my why? I don't know any other way. If I'm going to be totally honest with you, like I said earlier, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So I I'm just a creative, and I can't not create. And it happens to be jewelry because I've always loved jewelry since I was little. But if it wasn't jewelry, it would be something else. I don't know how to not create.
That's awesome.
But it is nice to have my own business and see my kids, watch me go do stuff like this, or say, Mom's got a gig, a show tonight, or I'm working on my website. And my husband's like, what's your website? And he gets on his iPad and he's like, on my website. And I'm like, that's really cool. That makes me really proud because they're going to grow up and see both of their parents working hard. And not that if I was just a mom, I wouldn't be working hard because they saw me do that as well. But I am proud to have them have that example of two people doing the entrepreneur gig. So
definitely,
it's a different appreciation. Like because my mom was a mom, just a mom. And not to say just a mom, but I didn't have that appreciation of my mom until I was an adult. And then I was like, oh shit, you did so much, way more than Dad ever did, way more than most people do. Way
crazy.
More than working, not way more than working moms, but she was always there. My mom was at every game. She was we had lunches at she did everything.
And she still is. It's from what it seems.
Oh, she still is. Yeah,
that's
you
so
guys
cool.
have met my mom.
It seems like the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
It is hard.
I have so much admiration for moms, for stay-at-home moms, for working moms, for
it's
entrepreneurs.
So hard.
Yes. So hard.
There's no way to set yourself to be ready for it.
Right.
It's crazy. Being a mom is crazy.
It's really amazing though that you would be creating in some aspect is kind of what you're saying, but the expertise that you have created by being a silversmith is not only did your passion align with the creative outlet, your talent for it and your natural ability. I know it takes a ton of practice, and that's clear that you.
But it doesn't feel like that. That's what's crazy. It doesn't.
Because you're a generator.
Yeah.
That's why I feel so lucky. It takes a lot of hours, but those don't feel like working hours when I'm just creating. They
That's
feel
so
like
cool.
play.
It's just I mean, you guys will. I'm sure have already stalked her Instagram so you can see her work, but I'm just looking at it on her right now. It's just
it's distracting. I wear a lot.
Perfection.
I love it.
The
You're so
twist,
sweet. Thank
I
you.
would be so lost.
I know.
These big old fingers couldn't do
Oh
any
my
of
gosh.
And your ear stocks,
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So we're talking about chaos, and let's get into some of our rapid fire, not so rapid fire questions real quick. I want to know with the mom and the entrepreneur and the wife, all the things, what is your daily routine?
My daily routine, we are early to bed, early to rise.
Yep.
Our whole family, my kids are as well. So we wake up at 4:30 or 5,
Okay.
and then our kids are right behind us at 4:45. It's crazy. And first thing I drink, if you want the whole detail, I drink 32 ounces of water, and then I go to buy black coffee, and it's a good cup of coffee. We value our coffee. And that's about 10 minutes. And then I'm in go mode, water, coffee, and then it's go time. It's empty the dishwasher, make the lunches, make the breakfast, do the thing while my husband is doing his thing, centering himself. He meditates every day. So we trade off. So I take the first shift, he does his thing, then he comes in, and then I get to go exercise is key. So sometimes it's a run, sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's Pilates, sometimes it's a HIIT workout. It's usually at home and it's 30 to 45 minutes. But that's sets me right for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's shower, and then it's my husband leaves, and it's the morning, get my kids to school, and then I go to work. If they're in school and there's no lockdowns or COVID exposure or sniffly nose, then I have a whole day of work. And then pick up the kids, and then it's dinners. In the school year, it's homework, and then we're really early to bed. So we're in bed by 7:30. Do it all again.
Are you doing a wind down, or are you falling asleep 7:30?
It's usually tuck the kids in, and then my husband and I have a show we can watch together. I'm usually by 8:15. I'm okay, I'm out. And I'm asleep.
So that's your normal day, but
Mm-hmm.
and obviously with 2 kids and also 3 other people.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have to adapt all the time because of different variables, illnesses, you always say. So
Yes.
talk about how you keep your chill.
So this last week is a good example of that. I've been running. We've been out of town. We've been onto the East Coast. We've been in Mammoth. And so I was set. coming back to work for a whole week. And then we get back, COVID hits our family.
Mm.
And so it's like, big deep breath. Okay, screw what you thought you were doing this week. You have 2 kids and you can't go anywhere, and your husband's going to be working from home. And so luckily we didn't get super sick with it. So we were able to so like my exercise routine turned into throw Esme on my back and walk up the hill, and then later in the afternoon, get Cohen out up on Mount Rose on his mountain bike, and like family hike time where that's my exercise for the day. It's carrying Esme on a trail. And so that's like shifting around. And a huge part of that has been closing the customs, because I can hit stop on my business now. Whereas before it was very stressful. If I had a week where my kids were suddenly at home, I went into stress mode. I couldn't be present. I couldn't be happy to spend that extra time with my kids. I was like, well, I have 10 customs I'm supposed to start,
and like the not meeting the expectations of others.
Yeah. Which my clients like are so sweet, and they never put that on me, but it's me that puts it on me. If I have a list of people that are waiting for something, I can't chill. I'm like, oh my gosh, stressed. So that was a big thing for me.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's a lot of pivoting.
Yes.
I think a lot of parents have experienced that in the last couple of years.
I'm sure.
Scrambling to figure out what to do with your kids. Yeah.
So I think
I know.
I want to know though, I know you have, let's ask the question that we always ask everybody. And then I know you have an event coming up, so I want to talk about that too. But if you could give, this is like, as you know, our end of the discussion. If you could give one piece of advice to someone starting out in business, what would it be?
I would say I'm a firm believer that everybody has a superpower, that everybody has a gift that they came here to provide, and just trust that, and that will align you with that, and that will guide your whole business. I think that's really important. I'll try to keep it brief.
Yes, I am a firm believer in that as well. Mm-hmm. Like, what makes you you, and even if you like don't like it, don't fight that. Mm-hmm. Dive into it, and then that's where you can create a business. Yeah, because it makes you unique, and no one can come for that.
Yeah, and you'll attract your perfect clientele because they're attracted to that specific gift. Like you have a candle business, but your thing is the mental health. Like that's what makes it unique, and that's what attracts people to want to continue to buy you, besides they smell so good.
Yeah. Besides the best candles ever.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Okay, so talk to us a little bit before we go. Where can our listeners find you? Both the event that you're doing, I want to hear about that, and then also like, how do they look you up?
So Adornment by Nicole everywhere at gmail.com, on Instagram, TikTok, and .com. So adornmentbynicole.com is my website, is where you can find me. And right now I'm looking at an event that's the first week of September, and it's the Reno Tahoe International Art Show. And it's the first year of its kind, and it's going to be big. I hope everyone's looking out for it. It's going to be amazing, featuring the region's best artists, from painting to photography to sculpture to every form of art. There's going to be live music. It's going to be amazing.
Where is it?
It's I believe it. Oh gosh, I'm not sure.
It's okay.
I think it's at the convention center.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, okay, but cool. Don't look it up because I'm not totally sure. So I'm aiming for that, and why I say that is because at the next few weeks I'm going to be making pieces that are breaking me out of my normal creative box. I'm going to really stretch myself and just try to make the most amazing standout pieces possible for the show. So I'm super excited.
If this
I'm excited to see.
Yeah. If this necklace is any indication of what we're about to see, I cannot wait. And like, I would also highly recommend everybody go on to, I'm sure I'm not on TikTok, but like your Instagram, your reels are amazing. Like your stories are amazing. I love watching you create. It's so fun. You're so good at that.
Oh, thank you.
I've learned so much about the process of it, and it makes me appreciate the jewelry so much.
Yeah. I love watching people make stuff. Yes. Like it doesn't matter what it is. I love watching people make stuff. That's what I love about social media. Carpentry or stained glass or whatever. So yeah, definitely I try to share stuff in my stories when I'm in my studio. So keep a lookout in the next few weeks because there's going to be some cool stuff.
So excited.
All right. Yeah. Well, this is the part that I wrote down because I was like, oh God, don't forget that you don't know this off the top of your head. So let me pull that up. Thank you so much, Nicole,
Yeah,
for being here.
thank
That
you
part I do
guys.
remember. I do have manners. I do remember those.
No,
Thank
we
you,
really
girls, so much.
appreciate
This
it.
is an honor. I'm a big listener, so it's
I
very touching to be
appreciate
here with you guys.
Well, we're so glad that we waited until we had like really strong foundation so we
Yes.
could bring
Yeah.
you on.
I know.
Shine.
And like for you to give us some of your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
seriously.
absolutely. Thank you guys.
All right. Well, y'all know the drill. Follow along, Britt on Blast. And find us at BLFT Reno and Haven and Flux and Murdoch Hats and Apparel online. If you like the show, subscribe and review Britt on Blast on whatever platform you're listening on.
Ooh.
Yay.
Thank y'all so much.
Cheers.
We'll talk at you next week.
This podcast is a production of Fenix Media. Explore more episodes of this show and other great shows on the Fenix Media Podcast Network by visiting phoenixmedia.us. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.